Ah, Welcome everybody. Today I have a really special guest on my podcast, Bryan Reeves, who is an author. He's a man's coach, he's a relationship coach, and he's a mentor. And I already had the privilege to have him on the show before, but today we talked about this lone wolf mentality so many of us men still carry within themselves. And we were kind of like just breaking it down. We were breaking down how it's not really fully supporting the evolution of us men. And we were talking about man's work, Bryan's definition, current definition of what man's work is all about. And that it's so much more than just some random dudes coming together to just sip on a beer and just have a conversation. We were really diving into the medicine that comes with man coming together in a trustable container. And Bryan was sharing his 4 pillars that he builds up on in his groups, in his work. And we just had an incredible conversation from man to man, talking about that we as men need a space where we can fall apart, where we can be celebrated, where we can be witnessed, and where we can be supported and challenged at the same time, to just really rise above and really bring all of us to the table. So it was a pleasure to have Bryan on the show and talk about all of this. And there's so much gold in Bryan sharing. And just enjoy it all and just fucking enjoy it. That's it. That's all I have to say. Bryan,
Renee.
nice to have you on the show again. It's been a while since we were talking. I don't even know how long, over a year, 1.5 years. And it feels good to have you back. And
thanks, man.
First of all, how are you doing?
Oh man, how am I? I'm oh man, I'm carrying some heavy stuff these days. Just some personal stuff that not really ready to talk about publicly, but I'm life's given me something pretty rich and profound to hold that I wasn't prepared for. So I'm well. I mean, my relationship with my wife is solid. My work, I love the work that I'm doing. I'm surrounded by beautiful, supportive people, and I'm holding something heavy at the moment. But in alignment with what we're talking about today, even though I'm not ready to talk about it publicly, I'm really well held by the people around me in this. So I don't feel alone in it.
And I think that's such a beautiful introduction into the topic we're talking about today, which is all about lone wolving. And first of all, I want to say thank you for, even if it's not making it public and talking about the essence of what you're holding right now and what life is giving you to expand and to enrich your life even more. Just want to say thank you for just being honest, and vulnerable. We're going to dive into that topic today, and to cross the bridge into the topic that we're talking about today, I would love to read the sentence that you were saying in one of the podcasts I was checking out, or one of the reels I was seeing on your Instagram, that brought me to reaching out to you and just really like having that conversation about, because I see it so much in my life and I see it in so many other men's lives. And what you said was, one of our greatest crises is that we are lone wolfing it. We are bearing our burdens alone. We are not allowing people in to see what's really going on. And I think that part that really hit home for me, for which I've been doing for a really long time, was we don't even let ourselves see it. And there was so much more to it, but it's this one thing of allowing people in to see what's really going on, but what I'm going through right now, being part of a man's container where I'm really doing deep work, I've realized that, my partner, other people telling me, yeah, just open up. And then there was a certain realization over the last couple of weeks and months where I realized I didn't even allow myself to see it. So how can I even allow someone other to come in?
Yeah.
And I think what comes up for me is the first question is, what is your personal experience with that? And maybe even like, when was it for you that you realized in your life, I can't carry that anymore. I can't do that alone anymore.
Yeah. It's a great question. Well, I didn't even know I was carrying so much by myself. I didn't know. I mean, had you told me, I would have been like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? I'm carrying this stuff by myself. I'm fine. I'm fine. No problems here. I'm good. Or if I got problems, I got them handled. So, that level of delusion that even still, I'm tempted to it. Like even when I shared at the beginning, I'm carrying something heavy. There's a part of me that wants to just wash right over it and be like, nah, man, life's good. Everything's cranking. Yeah, there's this thing, but yeah, life's got that. I'm good, and live in that place. Um, but I think I'm 48, and I think in my late 30s, really even my early 40s still, I started just to see what that was costing me. The pretending, the I was isolating myself. I was making myself alone, even surrounded by people. I could feel so alone because I didn't feel seen. But the thing is, Renee, that's comfortable. That's like what I know. I know not being seen by my family. In my particular story, my upbringing, nobody ever beat me. Nobody ever physically hurt me. No one was ever verbally or emotionally, well, emotionally, I don't know, but verbally abusive towards me. Um, you know, Family of divorce, parents divorcing at 4 years old and being bullied at school and just being a boy in in the world. And um I was going through a lot, but nobody was ever really checking on me. Nobody was really ever asking, how are you really doing? How are you feeling? What's happening for you? Your parents are divorced, and you have to choose where to go for the holidays. What's the impact of that on you, Bryan? How does that feel? I was never asked that question as a child. And through no malicious intent of anybody, just nobody was checking in. And as many of us, particularly young men do, women too, but girls, but boys, if I had some kind of feeling at school or on the playground or with friends, my fucking friends didn't want to hear it. They didn't know what to do with that either. And there's no crying in baseball. As the saying goes, is that the movie quote? There's no crying in baseball. You don't have feelings on the playing field. You can be angry, but that's it. You can be angry and you can be excited to win, but that's all you got. And so I embodied that for decades. You have the military also. You don't get to feel things in the military. You just you do the mission. And well, for me, I think one of the big warning signs was my intimate relationships kept imploding. I kept finding myself in the face of very angry women, and I never could understand why they were so angry. And it wasn't even until I started doing actual men's work. I've been doing transformational work and spiritual work all through my 20s and 30s, going to the Tony Robbins things, working with Byron Katie and Eckhart Tolle workshops and all that stuff. But none of that was helping me function in a healthy, intimate relationship.
Mm.
And so in my late 30s, another relationship crashes and burns with a furious, angry woman in my face. Oh man, what am I missing here? And that journey, that question started me on the journey of what am I missing here? And one of the big things that I realized I was missing is I'm so disconnected from myself.
Mm. Mm.
I'm so not home in my body and what's going on. I'm so checked out into my everything's great. Everything's fine. Life is nothing but a grand adventure.
Mm.
Everything happens to you. I'm sorry, the opposite. Everything happens for you, not to you.
Yeah.
Let's live there. And I believe that, but that's also a great a gateway to bypassing so much of what is really happening in my body, in my mind, in my emotions, in my system here. So, you know, had we done this interview, I don't know, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe, and you asked me how you doing, I would have been like, dude, I'm good, man. Blah 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 blah. Life is cooking, man. Everything's working. But I'm hurting
Mm.
right now, man. I'm hurting. And to be able to just say that and be in it, and it's scary, but it's also very liberating, and um and it serves my relationship with my wife. It serves my friendships with the men that I can trust to hold what I'm going through, who will support me, not judge me, who will who will also support me, not fix me.
Mm. Mm.
uh, So, I don't. Did I answer your question? I think we went down a little bit of a rabbit hole
I
there.
love it. I love it, Brian. I love it. And I think it touched up on so many different layers
Yeah.
that are intertwined with that. And I'm pretty sure that women for sure, but a lot of men can resonate with that.
Mm-hmm.
And mm, yeah, what stuck out to me was this: I'm good. I got it together.
Mm-hmm.
And what you shared in the beginning was, I think, for me, such a big piece that I'm more and more discovering in my own life. It's this: I don't even know that I'm holding so fucking much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my life. I've been doing that my whole life, like carrying shit from other
Yeah.
people, carrying this, carrying that, carrying.
Yeah.
And mm, thanks for sharing that. I really, really
Yeah.
appreciate it. And yeah, I think what comes up for me is that you were especially talking about man's work, that you almost felt like, you were doing the spiritual work, you were doing the transformational work, like, and then when you dived into man's work, you discovered, and I just call it, I'm just using my own words here, you just almost like discovered a flavor, a medicine
Mm-hmm.
that comes with man coming together and
Mm-hmm.
really putting in the work, especially in the realm of man's work, that what I heard was almost like allowed you to look a little bit deeper. And I know that you have been supporting man for quite a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, I think having an audience, which I'm now currently directing only towards men and women for sure, but it's really about helping men on their journey to really just transform their lives. How would you describe man's work in your own words?
Oh, how would I describe men's work? Well, you ask me 100 times, I'll give you 100 different answers.
What is your answer right now, if
What is
if
my
it just
answer?
comes through?
You know, just this morning, one of the men in one of the groups that I'm running right now, he said something really profound. he's only been in my year-long Elevate group for not even a month and a half.
Mhm.
And he said, I'm realizing that what we're doing here, it's not really about becoming friends.
Mm.
This isn't about making friends. And I'm paraphrasing, and I'm going to sort of take his answer and run with it a little bit.
I love
But
that.
I love his observation. It's not about making friends.
Ah.
We might become friends through this work, but that's not really what we're here for.
Mm.
Um, that's not the point. We're and now I'm going to kind of run with where he started, and in men's work, and there's all, as you said, there's all kinds of flavors of men's work.
Mm.
There's some men's work that I wouldn't call men's work. There's some men's work that I would call uh, adolescent boys masquerading as men's work. there's there's all kinds of stuff out there, but um I'll say what men's work, the kind of men's work that I stand for, that I hold. It's a place where we men learn how to show up and build trustable relationships with other men, where we can step into a container, an arena of sorts,
Mm.
with other men that we can trust, um, will be able to. There's four things that we stand for: witness, challenge, support, and celebrate each other.
Mm.
Witness, challenge, support, and celebrate
I love that.
each other. Right? Men's work is a place that we get to step in with other men, be our raw, ultimately, eventually, not on day one,
Mm.
but as we build trustable relationships, and this is, having a facilitator who holds a good, again, I use that word, trustable space, because there's a lot of facilitators who just, they don't know how to, or they're just not clued into certain things. I'm not saying I do it perfect. I have I make my mistakes too. But when we create a trustable space and men step into that, we start healing our relationships to the masculine. A lot of men think they need to heal their relationships to the feminine because their
Yeah, yeah,
relationships with women are so fucked up. And they're like, God, that was certainly my journey. I got to heal my relationship to feminine energy because look at my relationships with
yeah.
women. Whoa, it was mind blowing to me when I discovered, oh my God, yes, I do have to do that. But also, my relationship to my own masculine essence is so fucked, is
I know,
so
right?
disoriented. I don't trust other men. If I don't trust other men, how am I going to trust myself? I'm a man. So doing
100%.
men's work can take so many shapes and flavors, and we can go do so many different things. But I think at its core, it's men learning how to rebuild, or build, perhaps for the first time, trustable relationships with other men, so we can become trustable to ourselves.
Mm,
It says.
mm, mm. Thanks for sharing that. And I love the way you used what's coming up for you, or what came up for you right now, because I think, like, sitting in a man's container right now, everything you touched upon is it just hit home. It just felt so deeply. And I totally agree. It's not about becoming friends. This is not the main intention of really men coming together, especially when it comes to men's work. And the reason I wanted to dive into that and hear your opinion on that, because I think a lot of men who are not yet in that, who are not yet in diving into men's work, they really believe, it's just some dudes coming together and maybe have some beer and just talk about whatever. But I love what you brought up, the four parts, which was witnessing, support, challenging, and celebrating.
Mhm.
And somehow, when we open ourselves up, especially to other men in a trustable container like you shared, there is a medicine that we are able to receive, which I thought I would get from my partner, which I thought I would get from friendships, from
Yeah.
even now when I look at my friendships, I sometimes wonder why do I don't have that with my friends? But then to a certain degree, like you shared, it's really about being in that trustable container where we can really fully allow ourselves to be seen over the period of time that we are sitting in it. And it just feels so good in my system just to receive that. And it's just, and I think missing out, who are really not yet leaning in, and maybe they're not ready yet, but they're missing out because, like you shared, for me, it's almost like this self-discovery, this discovery of the self, and to almost like expand what you've been known as yourself, which is most of the time just a limited version of yourself that is boxed in by the pain, the hurt, the trauma, and everything that we've experienced. And it's almost like this big release of, wow, this is like me. And I love what you brought up with the masculine. I had this the other day with my woman, and I did a resentment clearing with my accountability brother in the container I'm sitting right now. And what came up, a big fucking resentment towards my dad. And while I was really allowing myself to grieve and to purge and to be angry and everything, I remember like literally grieving, like screaming and just being so, like really allowing what is alive inside. And it was like click, 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 click. And I saw, wow, what comes up in my relationship with my partner is not actually the shit from my mother, which I always thought, my feminine that I need to heal. But it was my masculine, the relationship with my masculine of my father picking me up 3 hours later. Oh, wow. I'm not really consistent with my woman and the words that I'm saying that I would do. And I just, there's just something so potent in it, which I believe we men crave almost, even unknowingly, when we really lean into those containers. And
may I ask you a question about your
please.
moment of epiphany? What was that a surprise for you, the moment that arose?
100%.
Yeah.
It was, I was sitting, like, even in the process, it was revealing itself in the process while I was really allowing myself to lean into the space while I was held by my brother. It came up there and it was like, it was wow. So it's not that I have to heal the relationship with the feminine, or that I have to hold more that, but I realized, wow, it's this really distorted relationship with my own masculine that I have. And I thought like, oh yeah, I got this, like, well, my masculine is fine. And like, I knew I need to do some work, but yeah.
Yeah, one of the a number of years ago, I was having a conversation with one of the men who were my role models when I was a child. One of the older men in my life, basically. I want to keep him anonymous for now, but
Yeah.
And this was a man who for most of my childhood was a raging alcoholic and a rageaholic. Rage and alcoholism, man. And it terrorized me as a child. I was having a conversation with this man. He'd been sober for many years now. And we were talking about his childhood a bit. And, he had shared how his father would discipline him, and his father would discipline him as a teenager by, he would take him out into the driveway and tell his son, this older man, the first shot is yours, and then it's my turn. He's telling his son, hit me first, and then it's my turn to fuck you up.
Wow.
That's just one way that he was disciplined by his dad. And, as I'm talking to this man has done a lot of 12-step work, a lot of introspective work. He'd been in 12-step but at this point, more than 2 decades. So he's been in deep conversations with other people going through these experiences. But even still, after all this work, I remember in our conversation, he was like, I wonder if that had something to do with why I drank. And I'm sitting there kind of, not saying it out loud, but in my brain going, yeah, no fucking shit. I wonder, like, how the fuck did you not make that connection years ago?
Yeah.
But that's it. We don't make the connections, It's like, if anything, we write them off. Well, in his mind, he's thinking, well, I was probably a shit. I probably deserved the beating I got.
Yeah.
Or, he didn't break any bones or whatever.
Yeah.
I think, we dismiss so much and write it off. I don't know, because of all kinds of reasons.
100%.
And then we get into our 30s and 40s and we fucking feel so heavy and so alone and so disconnected from ourselves, from our partners, from even like our friendships. And even that we don't necessarily see, because we got too many distractions. We got video games, we got porn, we got work, we got making money, we got
Even I would even love to add spirituality. I could see that big time in my life of like this, toxic positivity, like really like what you shared, like, oh, life is on my side, or life got me, or whatever.
Life happens for me, never to me.
Life happens for me. And I had to swallow that pill.
Yeah.
And it was a big pill because I realized, wow, I was bullshitting myself big time to really just distract myself from, because I know we always go through those typical social kind of ways of money, status, but then there's also another realm where I think there's a lot of bypassing happening. Absolutely. Where we have to move beyond, because otherwise we come to that, and life will hit you in your face. Sooner or later, if you hear the call or not, it will hit you in the face. And you can pick up the call or you can keep ignoring, but it will keep knocking on the door. And
my mentor, Francis Weller, would say that men especially only ever came into his therapy office kicking and screaming, dragged by life, by their feet. He would say, another way he would say it is, they only come in defeated. Men only tend to come to this work defeated, because we've been defeated finally by something that we get is bigger than our capacity to overcome it.
I totally agree. And I can totally resonate with that. And somehow it creates a whole new perspective on what it means to be defeated.
Yeah.
Because I just pretty vulnerable here, but I had a moment like that on Saturday where like I ended up laying under the shower, crying the shit out of my eyes, letting water drip on my heart, because I just allowed myself to fall apart just by myself. Like really being defeated to a point where, but you mentioned something before, and there's this liberation that comes with it, because in that moment, what I felt was, wow, I'm dropping the weight. Just even if it's just for that moment, I'm dropping it. And I'm able to get in touch with an aspect of mine, which I believed isn't lovable, which I believed, especially nowadays, like the way we look at man, it's weak, it's not good enough. It's something I normally don't show. But there's magic in that. And I even believe that this is the strength that comes with vulnerability, to really allow yourself be seen. And that's when we really, how I always explain it is, there's this still pond in front of us, this pond of water, and we're constantly throwing stones in it with the distraction, what you just shared. Like we constantly throw stones in it, not being able to really look to the ground of the look through the water to the ground, what's really there. And somehow, because we're so distracted and so fearful of looking at the things that have been hurting us so deeply as a child, as a teenager, we're constantly running away from it. But what we also not realize is that what's underneath the surface is somehow hijacking our lives. It's still hijacking our lives to an extent that we are not able yet to fully live an empowered life and an expansive life, an expansive relationship, an expansive relationship with ourselves, brotherhood, our purpose. That's just my own personal perspective on that, what I'm realizing more and more. And it brings me towards something which I've heard yesterday from Gabor Mate. And he was talking about the word vulnerability, and that it comes from the Latin word vulnerare, which means to wound. And I wrote it down because he said vulnerability is our capacity to be wounded. And it brings it so beautifully back to this kind of like lone wolfing mentality, which we almost see in our society as something strong, like you do it all by yourself. You're like, but the strength I feel from my own personal experience comes with allowing myself to be wounded, especially in front of other men. And I would just love to know from your own personal experience as someone who's holding this trustable container for other men. What were you able to see? And not to dive into personal experiences of other men, but what are you able to see? What were you able to see in your containers when man allowed them to be vulnerable and really allowed them to expand their capacity to be wounded?
Well, it's interesting, and I love that framing of vulnerability, to be wounded. The sort of the irony of all this is that much of our wounding comes from men. Early in our life, it comes from men, from our fathers, our uncles, our brothers, our siblings, our playmates. The other boys, other men are the ones who gave us the wounds, in a sense, who told us you're not good enough, you're a pussy, you're weak, you're gay, you're all these things that you're not supposed to be. You're not safe here is all essentially what we got over and over from men in all kinds of ways. And now all of a sudden, here are men coming into men's work, 30, 40. Hell, I got guys in my groups that are in their 60s for the first time doing men's work. And so, they're bringing in all of their woundings from men particularly, and now we're stepping into a conversation with men. Holy shit, but it's interesting. I was in Ireland a couple of years ago, and I was feeding cows by a fence, and I grabbed some nettles, which are like these little spiny, they burn after a second. And I went into a little local village, the convenience store, I suppose, and said, I was with my wife, and do you have some cream for this? My hand's burning. Do you have some cream? And this old Irishman said, "Oh, you don't need any cream. Just come out here over to the field, young fella." He's like, "Look like you got some nettle on your hand." And he's, "We need to find you some duck leaf." It's like, dock leaf? What? Duck? Yeah, duck leaf. It lives right next to the nettle. And he goes into the field, and he, there's nettle everywhere, and he finds this silky leaf living right next to the nettle, and he picks it up, and he gives it to me, and I wrap my fingers in it, and immediately my fingers start to feel cool. The medicine is right next to the poison. And I think it's the same with men's work. I mean, the poison came from men. Well, the medicine must come from men. Women can't heal my relationship to men. They just can't, because I have to heal my relationship to men. That's, who can I do that with but men? And so, again, and this is where having a skilled facilitator really matters, because we men can wound each other again. In our defenses, we can very quickly go to judgment, go to proscriptive fixing of each other's problems really fast. And that happens in a lot of men's work. Guys come in and they share, "Man, I'm going through this with my with my
Mm.
wife, you know, this thing. And then a guy rushes in, dude, this is what you got to do. You have to do this and do
I've
that and do this.
experienced that. Yeah.
And immediately the guy's like, he either shuts down and doesn't, he's like, okay, well, I can't share it because no one's really going to listen. They're just going to give me their solutions. Or he fights back, man, fuck you. You don't know what I need to do. And here we are right back in the wounding of each other again.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
again, it's all done with good intentions.
Yeah.
Having a facilitator who can recognize these temptations and cut in when and it's so subtle, man.
Yeah.
You know, so being able to say, whoa, 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 stop, hold on, pause. Notice that. Interesting. Notice, I don't know, Bill, what's coming up for you right now that you think fixing his problem is what is being asked for right now? Just for example, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Playing those, and you get Bill all of a sudden's like, shit, yeah, fuck. Well, what I realized is that I got really uncomfortable, and I wanted to save him. I saw him hurting, and I wanted to save him. I was like, beautiful. Stay with that. Oh, now Bill's in touch with his own hurting. Fuck yeah, wow. I do that in my relationship too. Man,
Mm.
my wife has a problem, and I want to fix it
Mm.
because I don't want to see her in pain because it hurts me.
Yeah.
Now men are getting vulnerable. And the guy that he was trying to fix is like, oh man, wow, I'm in the presence of another man who has the capacity to see himself and take ownership for his role
Mm.
in this relationship. That's pretty rich. That's interesting. I never had that before. So
Mm.
slowly, like, and very quickly, men are starting to realize, oh wow, I can trust that I can show up here and I won't be judged, I won't be fixed, I won't be dismissed,
Mm.
I won't be diminished. Like, I get to be respected, witnessed. I get to be seen for who I am and what I'm going through. I get to be supported. These men are gonna, if I'm having my ass handed to me, these men are gonna hold me up in the way that I need to be held, not in the way
Yeah.
they want to hold me, but in the way that I need to be held. I get to be challenged. If I'm living out of integrity with myself, I mean, we challenge each other all the time. If I'm out of integrity, I tell this to the men I work with, even though I'm the facilitator. If you see me up to something, if something feels off to you, I expect you to speak it.
Call me in. Yeah, I get that.
Some of the my most cherished moments as a coach have been when I had to apologize, or I got to apologize to a client because through no malicious intent, but I went too far with something.
Mm-hmm.
And they either froze or they came back in the next session and were like, dude, what was that? What was that? That didn't feel good to me. Ooh, thank you. Ooh, they get to call me back into my heart, out
Oh,
of
I
my
love that.
agenda.
Mm.
That's challenge. I need that. That serves me in relationship to my wife in the same way that I challenged Bill a moment ago. Bill, whoa, hold on. What's happening for you right now that you need to fix? You think you need to fix this guy's problems. He's not asking for your solutions right now. That's challenge. Respectful. I'm not saying, yo, Bill, don't be a dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop
Yeah.
being a.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, whoa, pause, right? And then celebrated, man. We get to celebrate. Like, men are so competitive, and I love competition. I love it. I love being competitive. I love winning, but I don't mind losing anymore. I used to hate it, but it's okay. I don't mind now. But I'd much rather win. So much more fun to win.
For sure.
Even, scientifically, biologically, testosterone goes up
Yeah.
in a man's body when even his team that he's watching on TV wins.
Mm.
So there's a real biological reward for winning, right? It's not abstract. It's physical.
It's not just like a concept that we're holding on to. Yeah.
Exactly. There's a real reward physically, biologically for winning. That said, we're not always going to win. We shouldn't always win. I mean, well, I guess that's who knows. But I say, learning to celebrate when each other wins, when the other man wins, even if I'm getting my ass handed to me. One of the things I've started watching UFC fights, and MMA fights. And one of the things I love about that sport is how often, not always, but how often, when two men beat the shit out of each other for 25 minutes and one man wins, the other man will turn to him and bow to him or praise him in some way, or say, I remember there was a championship match, I think last year, between two Mexican fighters, I believe, like in the lightweight, super lightweight, these like tiny, like 90-pound dudes. They were kicking my ass. They were ferocious. And the challenger won against the champion, and the champion was so, he like took the belt and gave it to him. It wasn't just a movie, it was real life, you know, and he celebrated him, and I fucking loved that. You know,
Mm,
men celebrating other men's victories. It's
mm,
so beautiful, it's so important. I mean, we men, how often are we celebrated even by our families?
yeah,
Very
totally
rarely.
agree. I totally agree.
So, you know, men start to step into a container like that, and I mean, you know, one of the first things that I often hear men say is, it feels so good to know I'm not alone. Finally. I thought I was the only one who had that problem or who thought that or was going through that. Man, whew, feels so nice to know I'm not alone.
Yeah, yeah,
Man, that's priceless for, you know, most men, those words come out of their mouth is like, Bryan, whatever I paid you was worth it triple just for
yeah,
that.
yeah. And I think it the memory that comes into my mind was when me and my partner, my fiance Charlena, when we had our first podcast interview with you.
Mm,
And I remember you just sharing, and that was in a container where there was a woman in place, but even you just sharing, hey, oh, me and Sylvie, we were going through some shit. Oh, like I think you guys even broke up, to a certain extent.
We did,
For
to a
me,
full extent.
if to a full extent, like for me as a man, I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
right,
and even as a
right.
couple, like we always like it's
Yeah.
and it's so beautiful. It brings me to something, and I love that Francis Weller is one of your mentors. I was listening to Man's Talk, like Connor Beaton's podcast with Francis Weller yesterday about um initiations, and I
Mm,
was writing something down that he said, which hit something inside, which I wanted to bring in because I think it touches upon something that you just like explained, that we men always think we are the only one who carry that shit. We are the only one who are going for that. And what he was saying was trauma, grief, loss, and suffering were always meant to be communal.
mm,
And only in the latest times,
mm,
we try to digest it privately,
mm,
start to rely on ourselves
mhm,
individually to somehow, oh no, sorry, I missed it here. And only in the latest times, we start to rely on ourselves individually to somehow digest these
mm,
materials that require so much of a larger holding field than my own psyche.
yeah.
Or best see a therapist. It's still private practice. We are
Mm,
still going into privacy when what is being requested from
mm,
us is community and cosmos. We can't do this
mm,
individually. And when he said that,
mm,
there was a part of me which was like, first of all, referring to, doing the man's work, sitting in containers and being like doing that work, and which was a reference of yes, I feel that. And also it just felt so good because what you just shared, carrying so much as man, especially like we are constantly carrying shit and sometimes not even aware of it, especially when it comes to our traumas, to the healing process, to the suffering, the grief. Hearing that, it opens up this complete new perspective of why man coming together in a communal space, which should normally be trustable and safe, has so much healing in itself. Just to come together, for sure, from a facilitator that is able also to kind of like set boundaries in a way where everyone is able to really just show up in the way you just shared.
mhm.
And yet, what would be your message to those who are so fucking scared to do so? Because it is
Well,
scary.
yeah, it is
It is
scary.
fucking scary.
I
Even
know.
you shared it in the beginning, like, like it is scary to sometimes like even just be in it or say it.
100%. I mean, one of my closest friends who for many many years just came into one of my men's groups. Um, he was a fighter pilot in the military and petrified of men. just because of, again, his own childhood experiences. And then being, I was in the military, I didn't fucking trust the men in the military. I knew that I couldn't be my full self with
Mm.
men in the military. I mean, I only stayed in for 5 years, so I've been able to work on kind of releasing the cage, getting out of the cage I put myself in for that time, and that the men around me wanted me in also, for that system to work. uh but my friend didn't have that. He stayed in for a very long time, and um it took a lot of courage for him to come into to do work with men. And I think that the only way he was able to is because he trusted me. He trusted that would be his ally
Mm.
in ensuring that this was a safe experience for him.
Mm.
And I think that does matter. I think for what I encourage men who if someone's listening to this, you're obviously tuned into a deep longing, a deep need
Mm.
for something that you don't have right now. And my advice is just keep looking, just keep
Mm.
going, just keep going. I mean, it took me years on my own journey. I mean, I went through different men's groups, I did different men's organizations that some were like, this ain't really for me.
Mm.
Again, I've been in and out of men's groups for years, and I went to for a couple times, and again, just like, no, this doesn't feel like the right fit for me. And some I stayed in for a couple years until they played themselves out. I'm in one now that I've been in for 3.5, coming up on 4 years.
Wow.
I hope that I go the distance with these men. I love these men. um, um, but it wasn't an easy journey to find this brotherhood. And we're not all the best of friends with each other. We're not. In fact, many of us, without the container of this men's group, wouldn't be friends at all.
Mm.
Not because we don't like each other, but because our lives are so vastly different that we wouldn't possibly run into each other or keep running into each other.
Mm.
But through this container of brotherhood, we're building something I say is so much richer than just,
Mm.
the run of the mill friendship.
Mm.
But it took time. It took me, again, following my hunger, following the longing, even when I was scared. And it took me, again, just sort of trusting the teachers along the way, the people, the mentors. I mean, so countless people, just like my friend had me as an ally to step into to something that was scary for him. There were countless allies on my path that I looked at, and just there was a resonance with, or like, they may know something that I want to know. Let me go find out
Mm.
what they're up to.
Mm.
And I had some weird experiences doing that.
I
you know,
can
it's,
imagine.
it's been quite a journey, but I had some magical experiences and amazing, and learned so much. And, that brought me to Francis Weller, who's one of the greatest gifts of my life as a teacher, and so many others. And in fact, actually, I'm realizing it was one of my clients who introduced me to Francis Weller. He was reading his book Wild Edge
Wow.
of Sorrow, and I thought, wow, what a beautiful title. And so I got that book and started reading it and just went down that rabbit hole. I was like, oh my God, who is this man? I need to learn more from him and about him. And that set me on a particular path. And again, just little breadcrumbs, like just follow the breadcrumbs, follow the white rabbit, just follow the white rabbit. Who can say where it
Mm.
will lead? But,
Mm.
Tony Robbins famously said, uh, when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, we will change. And I say, just follow your curiosity.
Mm.
Follow the resonance. If you're hearing my voice, this conversation, something's clicking for you, get my book, go to my website, just, do something.
Yeah.
Or if there's another man that stands out that you're already connected to or watching his stuff and you're like, I like what he's up to. Well, go to his website, see how could you work with him perhaps? What does he have on offer? Like, just, you got to get started somewhere.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I loved what immediately came up to me when you were mentioning Francis. How much was it for you that he was also like an elder for you?
It
Because
was everything.
Francis, because I didn't plan to talk about this, but I had this in the first men's group that I was sitting in. The deepest resonance I felt was really with the man who were 62, 65, because I never had really a father and elder in my life. And I would just love to hear your own personal experience of, because most of the time we would never really or rarely connect maybe with a 62-year-old when you're in your 30s, like maybe to an extent because of surprise or a coincidence, but men coming together, like you said, even in your group, you have a wide range of different ages. And how much was you like, first of all, how was your personal experience of like having elder that you were able to lean towards to and learn from? And yeah, I would just love to know.
Well, a couple months ago, maybe even the end of last year, maybe 6 months ago, I started working with. I'd been looking for an elder male therapist for a long time. I'd worked with some women, I worked with some men, but it's like, nah. I worked with a couple therapists who, after a few sessions, they were like, Bryan, I should work with you. Like, let's partner up. Wanted to partner. I'm like, man, the motherfucker, I'm not trying to partner with you. Be my damn therapist. Yeah, so it's like, I'm not looking for peers. I need elders. I need men that don't need me to hold them.
Yeah.
I do that professionally, and I do that in my men's group, and I love that, and I love it. But who the fuck's gonna hold me? And and my men and my men's group can do that, but we all identify as peers. We're not elders to each other, even though I think the youngest of us is 32 and the old of us is like 58. So there's still a wide range, but I'm 48. We don't look at each other as each other's
Yeah.
elders. When I went to the first session with an older man, I found one here in Austin who actually was a man who wrote a lot of interesting books in the men's movement back in the 70s and 60s and 70s. He was very good friends with Robert Bly, who wrote Iron John, and he's like the father of the men's movement. And so the first time I went into this man's office was at his home, and he's in his 70s, and he lives in this a home that looks like it was built in the 50s. The wood paneling and kind of old furniture. Felt like I was in my grandfather's house. And at I sat down in his, I guess, his office, and within 2 minutes I was in tears. He's just like, so what are you here for, bud? What can I help you with? I don't even know what I said. I just know I was instantly emotional because, oh my God, here is an elder, not just an older guy, but
Yeah.
an elder, a true elder who can hold me, so I can, oh my God, I get to fall apart and trust that he's got me. I don't trust that with my dad, or quite frankly, my stepfather. I trust him more than my actual dad or my father-in-law. They're all good men, but they can't fucking hold what I would bring. I'm a fiery son of a bitch. I got a lot, and you can't hold it, then get the fuck out of my face. Just don't
Yeah.
even try. It's like one of my friends in my men's group was like, look, if you guys can't pick up what I'm bringing, don't pick it up. Just let it go. Because if you're going to pick it up, I expect you to be able to hold it.
I love that.
Respect.
But it's true,
It's true, man. And every time I get to interact with Francis, same. I feel like trembly. I said this into I'm doing a group experience that Francis is facilitating, and there's a lot of elders in that group. I think his work tends to attract older people, and I got to speak into that community and share how, because of what I was hearing was a lot of the elders were saying they feel lonely. They're so alone. A lot of our elders are alone. Look, their kids barely come around anymore because they're off doing their own thing. Hell, everyone's going to YouTube University these days. You don't need to call
Yeah,
mom and
yeah,
dad for advice or wisdom. Just go on YouTube,
yeah.
or go on Instagram. They're lonely. They're alone. They have nowhere to give their gifts. Nobody wants their gifts. They're discarded. And I got to hear a number of of elders, of older people saying that, and it was, and what I realized, what just that spurred in me, I got really emotional again, and I got to share this with them, that I, as a younger, I'm so lonely for elders.
Mm,
I have so few elders in my life. I'm starving.
mm.
I
I
have
feel you with that,
I have
yeah.
some olders. I got some olders, but I don't really have
Elder.
elders.
Mm.
Starving
Yeah.
for elder wisdom, elder. It breaks my heart sometimes. I see movies, where people have these parents who are just so loving and wise and present, and like they can go to their father, and their father just has something, he can hold such a beautiful space. What is that like? Oh my God.
I feel you with that, brother. I feel you with that, Brian. So, so much. Like, there's a medicine that comes with elders. And I love what you shared. Not elders, elders. There's a certain wisdom they carry. It's not even like what they say, what salute. It's
Yeah,
just their presence. It's just their
totally.
presence where it's almost like this. Oh, wow. They just
Yeah.
went through life already to a certain extent, which allows you to almost like you shared, they are able to hold you in a whole different range than most of the people do who are in the same age range, who are, maybe a little bit older. And yeah, I just felt that there's something when you just brought up like Francis. I just felt like that there was a resonance with you also craving that deep longing. And yeah, like I think we're coming slowly to an end, and
Mm.
it's I think what just comes up for me is the gratitude I have for, first of all, men like you who are doing the work and who are offering the work and who are really helping men to find a trustable container to really allow themselves to work on themselves, be seen, be witnessed, be celebrated, be challenged, like all of it.
Mhm.
And I also carry so much gratitude for the man who are out there really longing for something deeper, longing
Mhm.
for a richer life than just money, status, whatever it is. And it's just it almost makes me emotional right now. I'm really honest, because you are able to move beyond a veil that is really hard to move beyond by yourself.
Mm. Mm.
And we were talking about lone wolving. This was the first,
Mhm.
that was the intention of this call. And it just brings me back to a place of everyone who's listening, you're not alone.
Mhm.
Like, you're not alone in this. Like, and you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
You're not here to carry all that weight, to fix and heal it all by yourself. And I'm sharing this even for myself, because I sometimes get so stubborn that I have to figure it out by myself and I have to do it like, but we don't. And I just want to keep this as a reminder for everyone who's listening to this, that like Bryan said, like whatever is your flavor, find it. Go on that search, seek for it, explore it, and then see, and you will find something that hits your taste buds in a way that you're able, that's the meal, the nourishing meal I craved for so long, and I'm so fucking ready to just take it all in and digest it, because there is magic in man coming together. There is so much medicine in that, which allows ourselves as man to expand and grow in a way that most of us can't even imagine. most of us can't even imagine.
That's right. You know, I always like to say that the parts of us that don't want to change don't want to change. The resistance is going to be there. Renee, every men's group, like every session, every men's group, whether I'm a participant or facilitator, every men's group, I never want to fucking go to it. I never, ever, ever, ever. I'd much rather do nothing. I'd much rather stay home, play a video game, watch some TV, make love to my woman, just sit on the couch and eat ice cream. I'd much rather do nothing. Do not that. But every single fucking time I go, and by the end of it, I always feel better. By the end of 2 hours with other men doing the work that we do, I always, 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 always feel better. But I never want to go at the start.
I feel with that so much. I swear, like always, like fighting with myself. Is there an excuse I could use for myself to really not? But
Yeah.
you know, when you once taste that medicine, you know deep within, if you just allow that voice to just move a little bit away, you know deep within, fuck man, I need to.
Yeah.
Because you just know.
I've thought sometimes, like, I have a friend who is just wealthy beyond belief. He's got more money than he'll ever know how to spend. And I've thought about his life and what he does and what I would do. And there's a part of me is like, it's good that I don't have that much, that I don't have stupid money. It's good that I need to, work to be able to pay my bills, because, I don't know that I would do this work if life didn't, like the men brought into Francis's office, if life didn't bring me kicking and screaming into this work, I don't know if I would do it, because it ain't easy. It's endlessly challenging.
Yeah.
But I always feel better for it. And it serves my relationship with my wife. It serves, I get to not feel alone in the world.
Yeah.
I get to be held by other men when I'm getting my ass handed to me, as I am, as I shared at the beginning, in a certain area of my life right now. I'm going through a hard time, but I got so many men just there checking in on me. How are you feeling? One of my friends today sent me a text, how's your heart? Just that question, how's your heart?
That hit deep, hey?
And I get to just share, here's, my heart is heavy and it's hard, but man, I'm moving through it. And thank you just for asking. He's witnessing me. I get to be witnessed. My own dad doesn't check in on me like that.
No.
And this heavy thing that I'm carrying, I haven't shared it with him, and I probably won't, because I don't trust that he can hold it, even if he tries to pick it up.
Yeah.
So I won't even give it to him. I won't even put it at his feet, which is tragic, and how it is. But that's what, I've cultivated a brotherhood for, and all men need trustable brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, like a tribe of men where you really can just bring all of it, like you shared, all of it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it so much. And last thing that I just want to add is that what I always, it's the man who are currently holding me for a really difficult time in my life. What I love the most is they're just there. They're just there, and they're just like, hey, I love you.
Yeah.
There's no judgment. There's no pinpointing out. There's like, if I need a reflection, if I need, like, they call me out if they can see bullshit, like that stuff. But what I feel is there's just love in a way which I also was holding myself back from receiving because of my stories towards men. And that this is a whole different conversation to have, but opening myself up and having that courage, like even like kicking and screaming, but then surrendering into it and soften into it and allow myself to take that medicine that is handed to me and receive it. It changed my life. And I'm pretty sure you can agree to that this work changed your life and like in many different ways, you know.
I don't know how I lived so long without it. Well, I know how I did. My relationship sucked. I felt alone, never successful. Yeah, I suffered.
Yeah.
No matter what my circumstances when I was lone wolfing it.
Yeah. So Bryan, thank you so much for making this happen, even like you holding a lot right now. I know that this will reach so many men and give them a perspective on man's work, and allowing yourself to be held by other men in a trustable container, to really just let go of this lone wolf mentality that we have to do it all together. Because in the end, like you said, like what I shared in the beginning, it's the greatest crisis we face right now. I mean, collectively, but especially as man. And yeah, my intention with this is to just really use this almost like as a channel for man to maybe move a little bit towards more what do they need, like lean into that work, reach out to you, figure out your work, maybe lean into my work, opening up like other men's, whatever it is. And is there something, I would love to give you the space, is there something that you're still rolling out? I know you have a lot on your plate right now, but is there something that you're currently rolling out for men? I know you have your Elevate program.
Yeah, I have actually. I mean, there's two Elevate programs that I run for men. One is it's full for the year. It's called Elevate 2023. We'll open that up again in probably August or September.
Mm-hmm.
That's my year-long coaching, small group coaching for just 10 men. But I have another program that is open right now. It's called Elevate Your Relationship. And that's a 6-month live coaching experience for men. Get to work with me directly, specifically on relationship challenges. So if you're a man, you're in relationship, you're struggling, and you're ready to up your relationship game, to learn how to connect with your partner, to learn how to stand in your power and be powerfully present in the relationship, to learn skillful communication. Elevate Your Relationship is a really profound container within which, again, we get to be witnessed, challenged, supported, and celebrated with me and with other men. It's a really profound experience. So you can just find out about that. I don't have a sales page or an information page about it yet. I only have an application. So
I will put all your links. I will put
great.
them into the show note, and then they
Great.
can I'm pretty sure can definitely find that. Bryan,
Great.
if you would stand in front of your 8-year-old self right now, what would you tell him? What would it be the message that you would tell him?
I would say, look, kid, you're in for a hell of a ride, but I promise you, you'll at least live to 48 years old. Soak it up, enjoy every minute of it, even the shitty parts, and just trust, even when you can't, that it's going to work out. You're going to find your way through, even when it sucks. And as I said, I know for a fact you live to 48. Beyond that, I got nothing for you, kid. So
I love that.
Enjoy the ride.
I love that, Bryan. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, again, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your wisdom and sharing your experiences and sharing your heart. I truly appreciate that.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for holding a great conversation, man. I appreciate it, as always.
You're so welcome, Bryan.